Stephen Miller is one of the most senior Trump aides who went all 4 years in the White House serving as senior advisor with a portfolio including immigration, and as a top speechwriter, working with then-President Trump on his January 6th address that preceded the storming of the Capitol. This photo, released by the House January 6th committee, shows the two, Miller and then-President Trump, in that editing process. All that makes Miller an insider, a participant in sweeping and controversial policies, a witness in the congressional Jan 6 probe, and he is currently a surrogate for the 2024 Trump campaign. Joining me now is Stephen Miller, the White House veteran and current Trump campaign surrogate. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. That is a very spectacular introduction. I look forward to our conversation.
Great. Me too. That reminds people of many of the things you've done. Now, I set aside time for this interview, so we'll get to the campaign news, the running mates. My first question to you, though, is about this clash over the future. Many see Project 2025 as a guide to Trump's second term. Its advisory board includes your organization.
Was I with President Trump for all 4 years at the White House in the West Wing, as you mentioned, but I also was with him in 2015, in 2016, and have continued to be in all 4 years since then. So you will not find a guest who has more authority to state categorically that Project 2025 has absolutely nothing to do with the past, present, or future. President Trump and President Trump alone will make his own policies. My organization is not on the board of Project 2025. I've never revised nor consulted it.
I just want to say as well, in fairness, the photo there, which shows you working with Heritage, and the book is in the room. And so what do you say to people who see that history and think there was a link and now it is being walked away from because of the content or the controversy of those plans?
Again, you've given me this great platform because I suspect that, and I say this with sincerity, it's not intended to be a trollish comment. I suspect that a lot of people who watch your show, who watch other shows on this network, have been bombarded with a lot of propaganda about Project 2025. So it's actually a great opportunity for me to say, Project 2025 has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the Trump campaign, a future Trump transition, a future Trump administration. You showed that clip there. I was asked to record an advice video for young students, which I did, about how to be ethical, upright, hardworking young staffers. I didn't have anything to do with what books or whatever they put in the background of my shot. That was the beginning, the middle, the end. And I have publicly disavowed Project 2025, as has President Trump and everybody else.
Very interesting. A couple more questions on the policies, and then I want to turn to immigration, where you have a background. You've just said that. The former president said that, as I mentioned. There are issues where we see a kind of overlap. Here's Project 2025 on abolishing the Department of Education, which would be a big move. The current Republican platform says, quote, we're going to close the Department of Education. And so that, as you can imagine, has people thinking there's something similar. Project 2025 talks about a top-to-bottom overhaul of the FBI and what are seen as changes or potential loyalty tests for those staff. That's something that, as you know, President Trump has talked about and you've talked about. I want to play you, this was as recent as February, making a, again, similar point. Take a listen at CPAC.
You have to write laws to actually go after the enemy. Big, broad, neutral laws will be used to crush us. It will be used to obliterate us. Write the law so it protects your friends and harms the bad guys. Otherwise, you're handing them a sword to run right through you.
Write the law for your friends and against your perceived opponents. And one more example, and then I'll give you time to respond. On abortion, you know, a big issue. Project 2025 talks about cracking down on these abortion drugs, prohibiting abortion travel, even potentially prosecuting distribution. The current Republican platform talks about using the 14th Amendment to try to enshrine sort of this sort of life test, as they call it, that would do similar things. So on all the above, you can see the overlap. Taking into account what you said, which I want to report accurately, you said no involvement in 25. What do you say to all of those overlaps?
Well, first of all, the clip that you just showed of me there, which, by the way, it's a great video, so thanks for sharing it. I was actually talking about a law in Florida in which I suspect you and I were on the same side. It was a law that would have severely restricted free speech and free communication in Florida. And I was talking about friends and bad guys. I was talking about you protect people who are engaged in legitimate free exercise of their First Amendment rights. The bad guys being people who are actually engaged, this is a defamation law, who were actually engaged in true defamation, in true actionable civil violations that deserve judgment. The way the law was written, a lot of innocent people would have lost a lot of money. So I'm actually glad that that bill that was in the Florida legislature was pulled back and wasn't advanced. To your point about the Department of Education, Ronald Reagan was the first one who called for closing the Department of Education. So this has been a pretty mainstream Republican plank for longer than I've been alive. In fact, longer than even you've been alive. I think we're pretty similar in age, but longer than both of us have been alive. So this is a very fundamental plank of the Republican Party, closing the Department of Education and shifting it all back to the states.
And the abortion overlap?
Oh, well, I'm really glad, again, really glad for this invitation to be able to state to your audience, because it's so much better to hear it without any filter in between. There will be no national abortion ban under a Trump administration. There will not be a national ban on abortion. It will be left up to the voters in the several states. So if you live in Rhode Island, your state legislature and your governor will decide the laws based upon your input, or a ballot referendum if you live in Ohio or Kansas.
And so Donald Trump, to the extent that 25 or members of Congress, who, as you know, some Republican members of Congress, and you used to work in Congress as well, have said that, you're saying no to that.
No. And I will say one more thing, which is an important point. Again, talking about my long history with President Trump. It's important to remember, Ari, that when President Trump first ran in 2015, it was a takeover of the Republican Party from established interests that had been running it for a very long time. And if we had longer than we do today, and I don't mean this coyly, I mean, if we actually sat down, me and you, for 45, 60 minutes, we would find common ground on President Trump's criticism of the Pentagon and the war machine. We'd find common ground on President Trump's criticism of how trade deals have been written for decades, NAFTA, Korea. We would find common ground, certainly China's entry into the WTO and the normalization of trade relations with China. We would find common ground on concerns about how foreign guest worker programs have basically decimated organized labor in this country. We would find a lot of common ground on those issues.
Okay, well, you mentioned,
my point in saying all this is that when you talk about what, quote, Republicans have to say, what I'm saying to you is that President Trump is sui generis. He is President Trump. He has his own agenda that is his and his alone. And I know you're smiling because you know that it's true. President Trump.
I'll jump in. I'm only smiling because lawyers love to use Latin to complexify a point. Sui generis meaning unique.
Lawyer.
Fine.
I just tell lawyers what to do for a living.
Fine. Let me show you immigration, because that's been one of your big issues, and you served in the White House and you pushed a lot of plans that, as you know, are controversial. Now we have the comparison of the Trump years to Biden and the larger context. And immigration is a real issue, obviously, for many countries, and especially the U.S. Here are the migrant encounters versus deportations. I want to just put this chart up, and we could talk data and facts, where you have, under Donald Trump, and you're just a benefit of you to know, you and I are both on camera, as is the data here. As you know, the encounters were between 500K to $1 million a year, roughly. These are government numbers, apples to apples. And the deportations and returns people can see on the blue line. That's under Trump. I'm about to, not yet, show the Biden side. Do you think, though, that viewers are going to see the fact that the Biden deportations are lower, similar, or higher?
Well, it depends if you're measuring interior removals or border returns, which we'll get to, but I'll let you move to the next slide.
Okay, and let's reveal. And you're right, there is a complexity depending on how you count. But these are government numbers as tabulated by the Washington Post. Encounters are up, to be clear. So that speaks to the larger international scenario. But deportations, returns, and expulsions together are up, which is to say the Biden-Harris administration is doing more of that than Trump did when you were in office. How do you square that with what you and others have said, implied, or otherwise attacked the administration on, which is, again, reasonable people can debate all of this, but you have to concede, if you're going to deal with facts, and I know you've studied immigration and worked on it for a long time, that they are doing more returns than President Trump did when you worked for him.
So the most important thing to see in that chart is, if you look at 2020, what you see are the blue line and the yellow line cresting one over the other, the blue line cresting over the yellow line. It was the signature project of the Trump administration to achieve an end to a policy that is known as catch and release. And so this was the driving focus, not the sole, but a driving focus of 4 years of Trump immigration policy, both battling with Congress and battling particularly with the Ninth Circuit and as well as other liberal-leaning circuits in the country, and ultimately much of this going to the Supreme Court. The purpose of Remain in Mexico, the purpose of the Safe Third agreements, the purpose of Title 42, and many other policies was to ensure that 100% of encounters resulted in a removal or an expulsion or repatriation. So what you see there in 2020 represents not just the culmination of an extraordinary diplomatic, legal, and regulatory success in the Trump administration, but something that had eclipsed every other prior administration back at the beginning of the illegal immigration problem, going back to Eisenhower.
I'll let you continue, but you say prior. I'll let you continue. You said prior. I'll let you finish. But Stephen, I'll let you finish. I'm just going to be clear. You're talking about prior. Yeah. The question was about the comparison on the screen, which is Trump to Biden, which is the successor administration. So I'm just curious if you're going to get to that part of the answer.
Under the Bush administration, the Obama administration, right, illegal immigrants who are not from Mexico were set free into the country. We came in and we said, it doesn't matter if you're from Mexico, Central America, Africa, Asia, you're going home. Now look at 2021, 2022, and 2023. What do you see? The massive delta between encounters, and those are border returns, they're not interior removals. That massive delta, where are all the people now in between the blue line and the yellow line? They are in your community. They are in your city. What does that mean? It means corporations are exploiting cheap foreign labor. It means city services are cash-strapped. It means that public benefits.
Okay, I understand, and I'm giving you time. I understand the point, and I've given you time to make the point.
But people have gone on to murder innocent Americans.
Stephen, but I've given you time to make the point. I just want to be clear. How do you address the fact, though, that the Biden administration has deportations, returns, and expulsions going up?
Okay. So I gave you the technical, precise answer. This is the soundbite version, right? When you have 3 million illegal aliens entering your country and surrendering to Border Patrol annually, even under the most paltry enforcement scheme, there will be more border returns. The numbers you're seeing there are basically just Mexicans who are returned across the border. Every other nationality is being set free in the United States of America. What matters, the only number that matters when you're talking about illegal immigration, is how many get in. And under the Biden administration, millions of illegal aliens that were apprehended were then resettled and freed into our communities. They were set free to work and live in the United States.
I've given you time. I'm going to jump back in. I don't want it to be a shout fest. I've given you home.
Kamala Harris will give them citizenship.
Okay, I've given you time. I would just add, again, for this exchange and for the viewing audience, you're taking the position that that's the only number that matters, that people are learning about your position and you're an advisor to former President Trump. Other people argue a lot of other numbers matter, and Reagan, who you cited, did argue that the path to citizenship matters, that asylum and refugee programs matter, that having legal options for people, whoever they may be, one person may be Elon Musk, someone else it may be somebody's asylum-seeking freedom fighter, but that other numbers matter. I want to show something.
Can we go deeper on this together?
Well, yes, we can. But again, I've given you time on that. I want to give you the chance to respond to something that I don't know that you've been asked much about, which is the former Secretary of Defense said something about you and what you wanted to do with the military in our country. And you may be back in the White House if former President Trump wins. I want to let you respond. Take a listen to this about troops.
President.
We're going to pull up Mark Esper on 60 Minutes. If not, I'll read it to you. Do we have it now or no? I'll just read it. Let's take a listen.
He's behind me, and this voice just starts talking about caravans are coming, and we need to get troops to the border, and we need 250,000 troops. And I think he's joking. And then I turn around and I look at him, and these deadpan eyes, it's clearly he is not joking. They were working, that we had developed a plan, initial concept of how this might happen, and I was just flabbergasted.
That's the Secretary of Defense. You began this interview by saying you and Donald Trump disclaimed Project 2025. What do you say about that, and voters who are wondering if you were returned to office, if you were in the White House, would you be calling for that kind of troop amass to deal with immigration?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what the criticism or controversy is there. Of course, President Trump wanted a very large troop deployment to a border. Obviously, we went with a lower number than that. But President Trump will send as many troops as it takes to seal up the border. But I just want to dig a little bit deeper with you on this issue. Under the Biden-Harris administration, between refugee admissions, visa workers, guest workers, illegal immigrants, parolees, migrant flights, CBP One app, and every other program, you are importing many millions. Altogether, if you include every group, it's probably something like 20 million over 4 years. 20 million foreign aliens into the country to do what? To compete for jobs, to compete for resources, to threaten public safety, to tax our schools, to tax the ability of the country to pay down its deficits and debt. If you were a true progressive, a true liberal, in the tradition of Samuel Gompers and AFL-CIO, you would be right there with me saying mass unskilled migration is a crushing weight on the chest of every working man and woman in this country. There's a reason why the Fortune 100 CEOs want the Biden-Harris migrant pipeline to continue. Because it drives down wages.
I've given you time, but you're not a senator. We're not going to do a full filibuster, but I've given you time, and I understand the point you're making. I'll show one more chart, and then I want to turn to another issue. This is border encounters if you run it back 25 years. Because you're telling a story, and people can hear it and make up their own minds. But if you go back to 2000, we have this chart. Policy matters, macroeconomics matters, but let's take this in full, actually. Stephen, you'll see, and you know these numbers because you've worked on immigration. There is an ebb and a flow to this, and the macro is an ebb and the flow. And you do see in the recent period the increase, and we deal in facts here. But the larger market here in this topic, not unlike a stock market, is that there's ebb and flow. And that's a little different, I think, than the story you're telling.